heard about the Pilates Baby Chair, also called the arm chair, and wondered, like, what is this? Who's it for? Well, despite the name, it's definitely not for babies, and it is actually more powerful than it looks. In fact, it's one of the most useful pieces of Pilates equipment that you can use and have as part of your practice, especially for a couple of amazing connections we'll get into in this video.
Welcome to OnlinePilatesClasses.com, the most supportive Pilates-loving community across the globe. Enjoy new weekly classes from our amazing teachers. Download the OnlinePilatesClasses.com app
Hi, I'm
today.
Lesley Logan, and when I started doing Pilates in 2005, I had no idea that this chair even existed. And even when I started to learn how to teach in 2008, this was not part of my original curriculum. However, it definitely was part of the classical system. I just didn't know about it. And I know that means a lot of people don't know about it. So I want to get into the armchair. It's what I always call it. What exercises are common to use, why you would use it, how useful it can be, all in this video so that you can hopefully get access to one and use it for yourself or for your clients. What is the Pilates arm chair? So as I mentioned, it was called the baby chair and it's not for babies. So why was it named that? Well, I imagine it was called the baby chair when it's compared to the Wunda chair and the high chair. And the high chair, as we know, used to be called the electric chair. And so thankfully a lot of pieces of equipment got new names for itself. So the arm chair, it has springs with handles. The back of the chair does move. We'll get into that and why it's so important. It actually has this nice long back, so you get to sit against something, especially when we were talking about exercises where you have to have a nice tall back. This is a really great piece of equipment that you can use to find that in your body and in your practice. And so it's part of the classical Pilates system because, well, it's part of the whole Pilates system, right? When we are talking about Pilates, oftentimes people talk about reformer Pilates or mat Pilates, but in an ideal world, you have access to all of the equipment in the system so that it meets the needs that you have. And hopefully someday teachers will learn that all these different pieces exist. And so if you have an armchair in your studio, it's going to be really great for that tall back experience, but also the arm back experience we've talked about in a lot of videos here on this channel. So let's get into more information about the armchair. If you want to learn more about the different types of Pilates equipment, because there are so many out there, check out our video on all the different pieces of Pilates equipment that you can even use in your home. So why is the armchair so special? Well, it's really amazing for improving your posture, for building strength, and for connecting your arms to your back. There's some great exercises that will all give that feedback, and we need those exercises. It's, when you get on the mat in the reformer, there's some great exercises to learn and to do, but if you are missing an arm back connection, or if you're missing strength, or if you're missing great posture, it's kind of hard to learn it on the fly. That's where the baby chair is going to come in. Another reason why the armchair is so important is the feedback that it gives us. As you can see, when I'm sitting against this chair, I can actually tell if my shoulders come off of the chair when I'm doing some movement. So if I do movement from my shoulders, instead of a teacher telling me, don't do it from your shoulders, I can actually feel that feedback. I can feel when my back wants to arch off, or if my center disengages. I can feel if I slouch in position. It's really quite amazing what the feedback gives me, because there are so many exercises where we have to be seated, right? And so without the feedback of something behind us, how do we know if we're in the right place? The other thing that's really cool about this chair is I can practice exercises where I round forward and I lift up, and it actually helps me find the round to tall combinations that we have to do in spine stretch forward, rowing 4 from the hips, neck pull, different exercises where you have to go from flexion to tall to flexion. Having this feedback actually helps me learn the rhythm, helps you learn the rhythm. The other thing that's really great about the feedback as well is that if you have a teacher working with you, it's actually really easy for them to get their hands into those spaces where you want to arch off of the chair or your shoulders want to come off, because you're at the right height for where their hands are. So it's nice for them to get hands-on feedback. And then the other thing that I think is really unique about the armchair that we have to talk about is that the springs are lighter. They're lighter than any of the other springs in the studio. I mean, maybe the pedal pull springs, but what's nice about these springs is it really allows for you to learn the choreography of a lot of exercises while getting the connections and the strength without having to push against some heavy springs. A reformer spring and the arm springs on the Cadillac can be really heavy, and so having access to a lighter spring to teach you that feedback is really important. So there are many types of baby armchairs, or Now we're just combining the names. There are many types of armchairs out there that you might see. This is a classical armchair. This is the Contrology armchair. A lot of classical armchairs look very similar to this from all the different brands. They have a moving back with these lighter springs and handles. They might even have a metal handle that's a little heavier for that support, but the back moving is important. The seat is fixed. There's no pedal for your feet. There's no springs for your feet. Your feet are going to be working with the earth, okay? Now, the Contrology armchair, what makes it unique is that the back has two setups. So I can take this piece out and now I can move the chair into a second setup. Why does this matter? Well, the reason why this matters, see this nice little bar right here, I can pull this out. It puts us at a bigger incline, right, which is going to make us work our core even more. And so it's definitely a more difficult setup to be at. But why this is so unique to this chair and why this matters to me the most is that when a bunch of people got all their classical armchairs together for a workshop, Jay brought his 40-year-old chair in, and this is what his setup was, and everyone else's setup was this angle right here. So over time, somehow it got lost in translation and the chair got a little more upright. Now they still move, but it definitely does change the way that your core works and the difficulty that you'll get, because when you work with that way back setup, the spring will have more tension, which will create a little bit more stronger connection, or demand a stronger connection, I should say. Now, you can work with either place. One is not more advanced than the other. It's just which one is the best one for you. When you compare this armchair to a more contemporary armchair, the thing that I can't tell you is like what those will look like, because so many different brands have other ones, but they're usually the height of the chair is different. The depth of the chair is different. The back does not move, which means with a fixed back, you're still going to be able to work on the posture and the feedback of the back and the shoulders. But because the back doesn't move, then the spring tension becomes even more strong or more challenging as you're doing certain exercises. So which one is best for you? To be honest, what I always tell people, what Pilates exercises are you doing on it? Which one would be better? If you're going to do the classical moves that we have here on this channel with the armchair, and we also have a class you can take, you're going to want a moving back, because if the back doesn't move, the exercise I'm going to provide are going to become more challenging than you might like when you're doing it. If you're doing more contemporary setup, more contemporary exercises with the armchair, you're probably going to be happier with a more contemporary setup. So you just want to keep in mind what Pilates are you doing and pick the chair that's going to work for you. If you came to this video and were kind of wondering which one should I get, the armchair or the window chair, we've actually made a video for you about that. So here is something about the window chair versus the armchair and which one should you do. So we talked a little bit before, but the back of the baby chair, the armchair, does it move? Yes, it ideally should. It did in Joe's studio, and I want to show you why it's really important. Okay, so in Pilates, the way you're supposed to be introduced to exercise is ideally on the mat first, because there's no springs or platforms or anything moving. It's like just you and your body. Now, that's really hard to do. If you've watched our other videos, it's like the mat is it's the most accessible in that you can just do it anywhere on the ground, but also the exercises are hard because you have no support. But if you move those exercises onto the reformer, yes, the springs can be helpful, but the platform is moving, and that can create some fear. It also can make the exercises more difficult too soon. And so what's nice is that I can teach you a lot of exercises that includes spring work on the reformer that can actually support your mat work and make it better here on the armchair because of the feedback and the light springs. So what do I mean by that exactly? Well, I can take these handles right here and I can actually practice moving forward and up, right? Something you would do in neck pull, rowing from the hips, spine stretch forward. So I can actually take my hands by my hips, this is rowing 4, and reach forward. And then these springs help me find my shoulders on my back. And then I work my way up into the chair and I control myself all the way back. Now, if I did that incorrectly, if I was someone who sat up too far forward on my sit bones and my spine stretched forward or my neck pull, it would look like this. I'm up, and now you can see, now it feels like I'm falling. And I don't have the control. See how quickly that goes? So if you're someone who, when you do your neck pull, you do this. That's what I just demonstrated right there. So what's really fun is on the mat, it's really hard to figure out how that feels because there's no falling backwards. You're just going to do it incorrectly, right? But on this armchair, I can actually learn how to come up from my lowest part of my center all the way to the crown of my head and then work my arms from my back. I can do that with boxing as well. So in boxing, you get all the way down and you're working your arms from your back, and it's like, how long can I get? How much can I move these arms from my back? And then I have to pull myself back up. And that's really going to help me when it comes to twisting exercises like saw, spine twist, crisscross, right? So having a moving back plus the springs provides me feedback so that I can take this information to exercises I would do on the mat or on the reformer and get more out of them. In fact, ideally, you would learn rowing 3, 4, 5, and 6 right here on this armchair before you would even learn it on the reformer because the springs are nicer. There's exercises like chest expansion, lighter spring, non-moving platform, so much easier to access on this. 𝐒𝐷𝐷, everybody wants to do 𝐒𝐷𝐷 on the reformer, but doing it here on the armchair with a lighter spring is not only going to make it easier for you to learn the exercises, it's going to mean that you're learning the exercises from the connections you need to be using. So having that moving back with these springs really does provide the feedback you need to get the posture and strength that you're looking for. So can you make your own baby chair? Well, I'm sure there are some professional woodworkers out there with upholstery experience who will, and then can order their own baby chair, armchair springs. Here's what I will say to that. I do know a couple people have made their own because they can, and they're also only using it for personal use. So if you are someone who's doing this for yourself, by all means, have at it. Not every classical company will sell you springs, though, to the equipment you've made at home, and that's just because of safety and liability, right? Now, if you are someone who's teaching people in the public, I recommend just buying it. To be honest, it's so much easier to insure. You have a manufacturer to go back to if you need to adjust the springs or if something's going on. So for me, whenever I teach the public, I'm like, if a manufacturer makes it, I'm going to go with them. And I really do appreciate my Contrology one. If you want my discount, just let me know. They're not the most expensive piece of equipment when it comes to Pilates equipment. You know, like a reformer is multiple thousands of dollars. A Cadillac, even more. But the armchair is about the price of a Wunda chair. So you're not looking at too much of an investment, but you're going to get a big bang for your buck. So the benefits of the armchair, I mean, because now you're obsessed with it like I am, are better posture, stronger arm back connection. And that is really one of the most amazing reasons to use it, is because that is one of the hardest the connections to get when it comes to your two-way stretch. Also, for rehab and PT purposes, you know, not everyone can get down onto a mat or down onto a reformer. This chair, when you can get down, you can lower yourself down. It really allows you to work that core strength, get that posture going, and work the arm back connection. Working your arms through your body can be really excellent if someone can't work with their legs right now. Yes, they still have to be able to put pressure into their legs, but I've seen some incredible things done with people who are limited in their mobility when it comes to the Pilates practice, and when they get on the armchair, the things that they can do, it's really brilliant and beautiful. It also doesn't take up a lot of space. So if you're looking for a piece of Pilates equipment to be in your space that you can work on daily, this is a really great tool for that, and you can just put it in your living room like it's a chair. That's how it lives in ours. So if you have access to an armchair, my first exercises I want you to do are going to be the arm circles. Really amazing. If you have scoliosis or an imbalance in your body that you know about, do the arm circles with both arms and then do them again single arm style and see how you can work your weaker side twice, right? Weak, strong, weak. Rowings 3, 4, 5, and 6 against the back of the chair at first is going to be a better place for you. But then as you get more advanced, there are ways to work away from that chair back, which are going to really challenge your core. I also do love boxing on this chair. It is a really great place to learn it, to really dive in. You're going to feel parts of your body, especially if you're someone who tends to hyperextend when you're standing and boxing at the Cadillac. Sitting here is going to help you really find those connections that you need. And then as you get more advanced, you're going to want to kneel on this chair and want to do some 𝐒𝐷𝐷. You're going to want to do some kneeling arm circles. All excellent exercises to get into your body on here before you get on the reformer. And if you are curious about these exercises, if you have access to a chair somewhere and you are ready to dive in, there's 2 things you can do. 1, these exercises and more can all be found in my chairs flashcard deck. And 2, we have a 15-minute workout here on this channel. It's all free, and it's a 15-minute chair workout with your armchair. So who can use the armchair? Who can use this baby chair? Well, of course, you're going to know I'm going to want to say everybody. But the reality is if you're brand new to Pilates, I'm going to want you to experience a few more exercises on the mat, reformer, and Cadillac before diving in here. But that doesn't mean a lot. I'm not talking years. I'm talking like a good few, just so that you're understanding that it's not just about the arms. You want to be able to understand that it's for the whole body connection, the arm back connection, and especially because some of these exercises are leading to more advanced reformer or mat exercises, you want to have some of those foundational ones under your belt. But if you've done that, you can be coming out of rehab, working through your PT work. You can be an athlete. You can be an intermediate to advanced client. Like once you have your foundations into your body, this is a great place to be. And I mean it when I saw students come into the studios that I studied at and working in J Studio. There are people come in a wheelchair and they'd come and get on this chair and they would do their workout and they would get this full body workout on it. So it is excellent and a great useful tool for bodies of all abilities, right? So I highly recommend learning it and getting access to it and trying it out for your body. I just want to go over a few safety tips and setup with you because it's really important. You want to know what you're working with. So first of all, always make sure you have plenty of room to work with this chair. Whether it moves or not, you don't want to be starting an exercise and then hit your hand on a wall, right? So you want to make sure that there's a good amount of space. If the back moves, that there's room and movement for this to move and for the person or you to move in front of this chair without hitting something. You want to be too close to another piece of equipment or person, right? The next thing you also want to make sure is that you are checking the health of your springs, right? They do need to make sure that they always open up evenly. So if you're in a studio, make sure that every quarter you just have an appointment to check the health of your springs. Also making sure that your clips are fully connected as well, because sometimes they can unravel themselves over time. And then also when you're not using it, putting the springs away in a way that does not cause wear and tear on the springs is really, really important. I like to leave mine kind of hanging like this. Some people like to leave them hanging down. As long as the handles touch the floor, I'm okay with that because you just want the springs to just be holding on. Since they are a lighter spring, it's different than your arm springs or your leg springs where the handles and the loops are not actually pulling weight on the spring. These handles can, right? The other thing you also want to just be double checking is that you are not standing on this chair. There are some people who teach standing exercises on the armchair. Please, if you're following those exercises, make sure you're on the right piece of apparatus for that and that you're not all exercises translate to all different pieces of equipment. The weight of my body in this chair, I win. So I'm personally not standing on this apparatus, but there are people who teach that. So I would definitely inquire to them about safety tips when it comes to that. For me, this is a sitting, kneeling piece of equipment only. Also, being really mindful how you get your springs into your hands. If you are someone with shoulder issues, make sure someone's handing the springs to you or that you set your springs up so that they are on the chair ready for you to work, right? Versus you reaching around. You always want to be mindful of what your body can do so that you can not just stay safe, but get strong as well. So a few things to consider before buying one yourself. Again, what type of Pilates are you doing on it? What kind of exercises are you doing on it? Make sure that you're buying the chair that fits the needs that you have. I hate when people buy a piece of equipment because of price, but then they can't do the exercises they want to on it. It's not an easy piece of equipment to modify, right? We've got one spring setting, so we can't really make a lot of changes to it. So if you're doing classical, make sure you have a classical piece where the back does move. Obviously, I am biased to Contrology. I'm obsessed with it. I love this chair. I love that I have options to work in a more upright position or a deeper position. I also love their customer service. I love how they ship. We have an affiliate link. The discount link is in the show notes below, so definitely check that out. And if you live in different parts of this world, they do have distributors. Just reach out. I can probably help you find one. But as always, you don't want to just get cheap, crappy stuff because that's what it's in your price point. I'd much rather you save up and get the quality piece because it lasts. Here's the thing about this chair. I could sell it for the price I paid for it used to somebody because Pilates equipment that's really good quality, professional grade, does not lose its value, not in today's market. So definitely be thoughtful when you're going to buy this. Don't rush into it. If you have questions, you can always ask me in the comments below. I'm happy to give my opinion. Of course, I don't know every single chair that's out there, so I'll do the best that I can. But if you are in the market for something like what I have, if you like the 15-minute class I have, if you like the tutorials we have, you're going to want a Contrology or something similar. As always, thank you so much for watching our videos. It really means the world to me that these are so helpful for you. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. We are working really hard to get our subscribers to be so massive because we want to be the educational space for Pilates people, because we believe this information should be free and that you should have access to it. So definitely subscribe, share this with a friend who needs to hear it or who is wanting information on the baby chair. That would mean the world to me. And while we don't do classes on OPC on the armchair, if you are an OPC member and you are wondering if you're doing an exercise correctly, you can actually film yourself, do that exercise on your armchair and sit in. I will provide the feedback. Just because we don't have classes on it every month does not mean you won't get feedback from me. Just go to onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube to join us. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.